Welcome to this edition of Open-SCAD by DIY3DTech.com. This episode we're going to be taking a look at this. This is a CNC spindle collar that I whipped up, and the idea is I can attach dial indicators to the Z-axis here and the XY axis here. I basically just flip the indicator over to do the X or the Y axis, and then obviously this one fits the Z. Now I designed this for an 800 watt spindle that I have on my 3040 CNC, because one of the pieces I want to do is really to fine-tune the garble settings on this. And what I'm going to use, and I have the links down below, is actually a dial indicator which interfaces by USB with my computer. So I can capture those numbers, feed them into like Excel, do some analysis on them, and then project out a number. And I'll be doing another video on that over on the DIY3DTech.com channel in the near future, so keep an eye out for that. For this model, I wanted to share a couple different things in the coding. So I have set this up so it is for Customizer on Thingiverse. I've already uploaded it, so it'll be up there, and I'll have the link in the description below. I'll also have this code with a link in the on the Open-SCAD site. So if you want to stop by, say hi, borrow a copy, happy to see you there. And pretty much, I think from an interest standpoint, one of the pieces I do want to point out that I've started doing lately is this support structure here, because one of the things, this is a rather long support structure, and I need it to be rather rigid and somewhat accurate. Now for you truists out there, obviously there's going to be some flexing in this, so slightly, but I think it'll be okay for what I'm doing. But what I found is if I take a cylinder that's the, make it the diameter of the thickness of, say, my object, then move it up by 50%, which you see here, then that really adds some strength, because what we have is I'm using about a 40% infill on this. So I'm getting a lot of infill in this, and the infill is actually being extended up from the skin at the bottom all the way to the top of the skin here. So this is actually becoming part of this strut. So it's actually very, very rigid. So I've used this in a couple cases lately with a lot of good results. So I figured I would share that tip with you, and you can see here that we have how I'm doing this with Create X support down here for X mount. The other piece is all the translations I'm doing. So the translations for this got kind of interesting because they're I'll say a bit dimensional, because you notice I've had to do rotates on some of this stuff, which make it rather interesting. The other piece is this code is what I'm going to call semi-parametric, because you notice I have some cheat numbers here. So whenever you have numbers, hard numbers in a translate like this, which are not divides, it pretty much means somebody's cheating a little bit. And I had to cheat here because the X mount has an independent variable, because I needed to be able to vary the length of this X strut, which is this strut right here. And to do that, if you got too big of a spindle diameter over here, then there would be a problem. So what I did is to kind of work with that cheat, I've put a limit over here in Customizer, so I know it'll work between 50 and 75. When you start getting outside of those ranges, then what happens is you have to start adjusting the X length accordingly. And so I for some people that might get a little bit too complicated, and try and explain that in Customizer is difficult. So I've just limited it because this will cover the majority of the spindles. And if you have something over 75 millimeters in diameter, that's a pretty big spindle. So I'll just see how it goes, and maybe I'll have to make some adjustments. But outside of that, it came out very nice. I was happy with it. You just kind of flip it over to print like this, and so no supports or anything like that. So the holes are enough, have enough angle on them to be dealt with. So tell you what, I've rambled enough on this. Let's go ahead. Let's jump over to watch a quick time lapse of this print, and then let's meet over at the machine, and I'll talk a little bit about it, and we'll go from there. Okay, we took a look at the time lapse, and here we are at the machine. We've actually put this on the machine. So as you can see, we have, now I've got 2 gauges mounted on here. You can actually just swap the gauges if you want. So I've got the Z-axis gauge on here, and so you can see it touching against the bed, mounted on here. I used just a 1/4 20 thumb screw to mount on here, and the gauge is mounted on here. So now this is measuring the x-axis. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually build a mount, a push-off mount that's going to mount on the bed for the X and the Y, so I can flip it around. Because to make this work in the Y-axis, all you do is unbolt it and turn the gauge this way, and then you'll view it from this direction, and so it'll work on both X and Y. And with that in there, you can see it's a really stable. Now this is PLA with a 40% infill, so it's pretty solid. And one of the reasons I went with PLA is I didn't want the flex of ABS. I originally thought about doing this in ABS. The cinch is already pretty tight because I've made this 0.2 millimeter over the size, so it actually pulls open a little bit, and you see it's, I have a little bit, it tips in a little bit here at the bottom. I'm not sure why. It should be a little bit more uniform, but that's fine. And so anyways, you know, maybe the casing is tapered a little bit, which I didn't realize. But anyways, there it is. It came out really good. And so again, you just pop this off and it slides off, and you know, whenever you want to use it, you just put it back on and do some adjustments. Now, one of the things I'm going to upgrade this, I've got, I think, Garble 0.92J or something on this, and I'm going to upgrade it to 1.1, and I've got to redo all the settings. And so I figured that was a great opportunity for me to go through and really dial this in, which I really haven't done. So you know, I've got it, you know, which is, you know, probably good, but I really wanted to get it really good because I want to do some PCB boards here very shortly for this. So anyways, hopefully you found this interesting. This always fascinates me when I can go from code to a working object like this, especially a rather complicated working object such as this. So hopefully you found it interesting. If you did, give it a big thumbs up. Also, don't forget, subscribe button's coming up over there. If you're in Open-SCAD, subscribe, and don't forget about our main YouTube channel, DIY3DTech.com. We've also got a drone channel, video-drone.diy3dtech.com. So we do drone videos because I'm making a lot of stuff, parts for drones from 3D printers and that kind of stuff. So we'll see you over at one of those places. Cheers.